This week, I am joined by Yooper Steve as we discuss bushwhacking and getting to some of the hidden gems of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. You are listening to the LAKESCAPE Photography Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the LAKESCAPE Photography Podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Albert, and today I am joined by Yooper Steve. We're going to be discussing some of the hidden gems of the Upper Peninsula, some of the exploring that he does up there, getting off the beaten path and just getting out there and checking out new places, and some of the resources that he offers to those who want to do the same thing as well. Steve, go ahead, say hi, introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great day or wherever you're at around the world, around the United States. I hope it's a good one for you. I'm Yooper Steve, and I'm just a full-fledged Yooper that loves the outdoors and here in the UP and exploring as many places as I can, finding new places and going to those places I've been to many times as well. So,
yeah, very cool stuff, man. I've been following your photography, your adventures. You're really focused kind of on the Keweenaw Peninsula and the central region around Marquette. Is that correct?
Yeah, the winter time I do a lot of stuff around the Keweenaw and Marquette and maybe a little over in Ontonagon County a little bit. And then as summer comes along, I venture out further because there's more daylight and I don't have my snowfall measurement stuff that I do during the daytime in the winter. So it allows me more time and there's just more accessibility in the summer too, and the fall and springtime when there's not snow on the ground.
As you go through, and we'll start off with the Yooper report because that's how I initially had found you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was just looking around for information on the Upper Peninsula and came across something called the Yooper report, and I was like, well, wait a minute, what's this? And you do a lot as far as resources for anybody interested in getting up there with finding different waterfalls, providing snow totals, giving fall color reports. What kind of prompted that? And, how do you go about keeping up with that all year?
Well, there's a lot of things I think people enjoy knowing about. And, one of them's the snow. And, we here in the Midwest love our snow, and there's so many activities you can do in the winter that a lot of people don't think about. But also in the summertime is when most people come up here, and that's the greater percentage of people. But I just wanted to provide like a resource for snowfall totals to kind of give people an idea of what different regions the Upper Peninsula get for snow, and combine them all into one little area that they can go to daily or whenever they feel inclined to see what the snowfall was. Because, days are past when you're looking in the paper or you're looking on TV. Now you're on social media. So, a lot of people have that ability to kind of see things immediately as they happen across the UP for snow. And Calumet's different than Ironwood, and Calumet's even different than Houghton. And, even a mile down the road can be so much different. So I just kind of wanted to give people an idea of what snowfall was in different areas, and it's been going on since I think 2010 is when I started the snow report. And then, of course, brought it on to Substack and into the Yooper report. And fall colors, I do the fall color report because I want to provide resources to photographers like myself and leaf peepers, people who enjoy coming up to the UP and seeing some of the best fall colors in the Midwest. And some of the best fall colors in the United States are right here in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, especially the Western UP and Keweenaw and the central UP are your really prime targets for fall colors in the UP, but they're everywhere in the UP. But that was just kind of a resource I started, I think, in 2013 or 14 or somewhere beyond then. And now I've made it a little bit bigger and more people have been following over the years. So, I'm appreciative of all those people who followed over the years and continues to grow year after year. So, I think it's important to have that information at your fingertips. Because things can change so fast. And if you have somebody looking out for you, looking for the fall colors and seeing what they're changing like from early August, I think is when I start it, or somewhere maybe the first or second week of August, I usually start that report. It's a little bit early. There's not much changing, probably until like the fifth week or so. when people really start kind of noticing those fall colors changing, the leaf here and there changes, or road has, 5 or 6 trees along it that are changing. So I think it's important for people to understand as far as how the colors change from region to region. So I think providing the report gives that the opportunity for people to make a better informed decision than just popping on social media and seeing somebody posting a picture from wherever they want to go, and then they're planning a trip and all of a sudden the leaves are falling off the trees.
Yeah. I've used your report for countless things, photography related, trip planning related, especially in the fall. I'm always just waiting for it to pop up on my phone, the following week's report, just see, what are the colors doing here? Or, what percentage of change is in this area? And especially even last year, I had actually moved my trip a week later than I usually took it based on the color change in 2023. I felt maybe it was, coming up that first week of October was a little too soon. So I was like, I'm going to go back a week. I'm going to hope for the best. And I was stressed out the whole time. I was like, oh man, I rolled the dice. I don't want to miss it. And, getting that report and seeing the change in the colors and having that information to plan out that trip was huge. And even with snow totals, taking these winter trips in, right now it's February, and I'm planning to go actually going up there a week from today. But knowing what the snow totals are and knowing where to go, where there's going to be good snowfall, or where there has been good snowfall, I should say, that's huge. So excellent resource. It's going to be a link to the Yooper report is going to be included in the show notes below, so you guys can all go and check that out. Highly recommend it. He's got a ton of information in there that's just excellent all year round. One thing that you had mentioned as you were kind of breaking down the report and your motivation behind it was photography. Now, you kind of do a lot of different things up there between getting off the beaten path and bushwhacking and your photography. It's all great, all excellent. Would you say you're photography motivated or more exploration and just getting out there to find what's out there motivated? Maybe a combination of the two?
Yeah, I think I've always loved photography since I think in college and stuff. I've always even when I was younger, I loved taking pictures and stuff. But of course, the technology is a lot different now. But I've always loved photography and stuff. And then I think it wasn't until I've always had the point and shoot little cameras early in the late 90s or so, back when digital cameras started coming out. And then the film, they were still film, and it started changing right around the 2000 years and stuff. So I had my did a little bit more, but film was expensive, and you didn't know what you're getting and whatnot. It wasn't until about 2005 when I started getting a DSLR camera, and then that kind of broadened the horizons a little bit, and that's allowed photography to take off a little bit more. But yeah, so when I go out nowadays, it's kind of, I'm just looking for an adventure, day to day. I'm hoping to get out as much as I can. Sometimes I feel like going further away and exploring something different. And sometimes it's a place I've been to many times, because things can change. Rainfall can happen. That waterfall might have been super dry for the last couple of weeks. And then, you want to get it when there's water coming down it. And, all of a sudden it's fall. And so you get the full water when it's coming down a fall, because there's, a good rain. It always looks different out there, no matter if you've been to a place 100 times. That 101 time, it's going to look different than that other time. But I think it's more adventure related, now, and the photography just kind of comes along with it. I'm not specifically going out on a day-to-day basis to see how many prints I can make into a calendar, or how many images I can get to make into prints to sell online or anything. That just kind of comes along with the adventures I have. A lot of it's more video related now, but the photography certainly it slows you down a little bit too with the photography, because you're looking for that image, and maybe a day's looking really nice, the light's good and maybe there's a little mist. And so that's an opportunity to slow down a little bit and take some pictures along the way as well. And you get good video too. So, but it's a combination, photography, video, exploring. I think it all blends in together, and I think this day and age, I think it's important to take pictures because, when you get a little bit older, it's nice to look back on where you've been and looking through your pictures, because it really drums up memories that you had. And if without those pictures or video, you lose a lot of stuff. But when you see a picture of a place you've been to, or you have a little video clip of you talking at a waterfall, and maybe it captured you slipping and falling, or maybe it was with a friend of yours, or family member or something, you might not have remembered that, being it was 10 years ago. But when you look back on a photo or a picture, it'll bring back a lot of memories. And I think that's the great thing about photography and doing video, and why not? Storage is cheap. Cameras are cheap. Phones are in our hands. Why not take a lot of video and pictures? You can always delete things that you don't think that didn't come out good or whatever. So it's unlimited.
That's very well said and well put. And I like how you brought up that it brings back those memories and those moments in your adventure. You can share them with others. You can reflect on them yourself. I do the same thing where I'll look through the archives of pictures I have on hard drives from years past, and you come across an image that you completely forgot you took. But once you see it, it's like, boom, all those memories just come flooding back. And you know what you were doing that day, where you were going, who you were with. You know how you were feeling in some of the images that you see. And it's incredible that power that photography has, that video has, in just recalling those moments of your life.
For sure. Yeah, that's one thing good about that is it's very, very powerful, and it's an image captured in time. That moment right there is not going to be the same as it will be next week, and things change a lot, through the fall and summer and spring, and you're going to look different too, and like you said, it's a memory of that you pull back on, and you can remember who you're with, what you're feeling like. I think that's all very powerful stuff, that you can capture.
When you started getting into photography, were there people that had inspired you, or people that maybe helped you learn along the way as you were growing? Or did you just pick up a camera one day and just kind of get out there and start experimenting?
I think a lot of the images we all saw when we were looking through magazines and stuff like National Geographic, or we were watching a program on about, wildlife shows or whatever. I think the seeing those people and those places that they were going to capture these images, I think instilled a little bit of creativity and a desire to pick up a camera and stuff like that. But I don't see myself looking at any single person as being an inspiration to myself. But I think I've always been a creative person. I used to love to draw and paint, and I do that once in a while now, but not as much. But I should I should get back into painting and drawing and stuff when I was young. But I think I've always had a creative side. I've always liked to build things and try to see if I can fix something, or I've always had that creative side. I think with photography, and I think with video as well, you're able to tell a story through that image, and you're able, and when you're out in your ventures, you're able to capture that moment that you were there, and then you're able to show others, because there's a lot of people out there who don't have the abilities like we have. We're young guys, and we can get out there. We have, the ability to go out and explore, and we're able to share these images and this video with people that maybe aren't as fortunate as us. Maybe they're, physically disabled, and, they're stuck in a wheelchair because of an accident they had in the last 5 years. And maybe that helps them get through the day just by seeing your image, or that video you took. And also some people, they move away from a spot, they might have lived up here in the UP, and they used to love to go to, Hungarian Falls or the Black River Harbor, or the Porkies, or, Mission Point, Lookout in the Sioux or wherever. And seeing that image pulls back so much more memories for them as well, just by seeing an image you took or a video you took, and it could really brighten somebody's day by just doing what you do every day. And a lot of times we don't think about that, but I think it's just as important for us. I think it's also helpful for other people. And I think if it puts a smile on people's faces and brings back some memories for them too, that's always a good thing.
I like that. I really like that. And it actually made me think back to a lot of comments I've gotten, and I'm sure you've gotten them as well over the years, sharing your work and videos and images, even the reports that you provide, that there's people, like you said, they've moved away. Maybe they're just older and they can't get down some of the trails, or they used to go somewhere with their family when they were younger, and sharing those images allows them to recall those memories, recall those times. And it's a beautiful thing. And I really like that selflessness that you outlined there. Just very well put.
Yeah, it's and I think a lot of times this day and age, I think we look at our day-to-day activities. We're so we're going here and there so fast everywhere we go. But I think doing video and photography, I think, allows us to slow down and show people that you can enjoy these places too. Those images and those videos, if you're able to, you can get out there as well. One day we're going to be old and we're not going to be able to do some of these things as easily. And if there's somebody around when our ages, when we're in our 70s and looking back, I think it's going to be real nice to look and see how things change, because they could change. It might not be the same as when we were there,
Yeah, I've thought about that very frequently. I have a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old, and I always wonder to myself, if they go up there when they're my age. I mean, I'm 36. So when, 33 years from now, for my oldest, what's it gonna look like? How much are things going to have changed between now and then? What are the waterfalls going to look like? What are the forests going to look like? I mean, one of the things I like to do is just buy different books about the Upper Peninsula and flip through them to look at the images. And you can see just over the last 40, 50 years, how much things have changed. Trees that were once there aren't there anymore. Waterfalls, maybe they've rerouted or changed form, shape, all kinds of different things. It's incredible how much change these areas actually go through.
For sure. I mean, even places like Pictured Rocks, there, the soft limestone takes a beating with the north and northwest winds and whatnot every year. In the wintertime with the cracking of the ice, it compromises the stone there. And look how fast that changes. Just in a matter of 5 years, sometimes the whole cliffside could fall. Or the Miners' Castle used to have, I believe, three turrets there at one point. Now, and look at Chapel Rock. What happens when that tree snaps and the roots break off of that? What's going to happen to that little archway there? That could be 5 years from now. That could be 2 years from now. Or it could be tomorrow. Who knows? But it's interesting to look back and see how things were. And I think as photographers and people who do what we do, I think it's cool to use it as documentation too. I think photography for me and video is also documentation as well. So, that's another way to look at it. Not always looking for the perfect image, but I think, part of what I do, I think is just kind of snapping a picture, even if it was just my phone, just to be like, okay, this is what it was looking like, in April of this year, or this is what it looks like in, fall of this year, so you can see those changes. I'm not looking always for the best image, like I said.
Yeah, it's that documentation and that exploration piece coming through. And just, I've done the same thing in the field where I'll take pictures of things where I won't share the image. I won't necessarily consider it a quote unquote portfolio shot or whatever. I'll just take it because it's just something that documents that experience, that trip. But I can also look back on it thinking with the same thought process of, hey, you know what? In 20 years, when I bring my boys up here, maybe it's going to look different, or maybe something's going to have changed. I'll never know unless I just snap a quick shot and just keep it for myself. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I think all photographers to a degree do that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think so. I think it happens to more of us than we actually really like want to say it happens to. But I think that's just part of the ability to take as many pictures as we can. We can always delete them if we think that we're not going to use them. But I'm the type of one that I keep a lot of my stuff. I don't delete a whole lot of things. I've got images that are probably like all blurry and somewhere black because the phone went off in my pocket, or I hit the shutter button, and move my camera, or whatever. I got a lot of images like that. It's a lot of work when you take so many photos and videos and stuff to go through every single little one, but try to pull out the ones that you can do. Like I said, storage is cheap. It's getting cheaper every year, so nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, I did the same thing before my fall colors trip. I bought, I think it was a 512 gigabyte memory card. I popped it in my camera and it said I could take like 16,000 images. I was like, I don't even know if I take that many pictures in a year. Like, what is this? But like you said, they go on sale all the time. So, you can get them for a deep discount. When you're out there exploring and kind of searching things out, you spend a lot of your time, it seems like, looking for waterfalls that are off the beaten path and just trying to really find those unique areas that a lot of people probably don't even know exist. I know there's a few waterfalls that you've shared that I've just been amazed by. And I'm like, wow, like where do you even find these things? What kind of prompted you to start getting out there and just exploring?
I think once you've been to so many places, I open my Google Maps, I look at it, I'm like, holy cow, do I have just tons of markers everywhere of everything, from parking spots to waterfalls to lookouts to cliffs to mushroom spots or wherever. I got all kinds of spots. But I think it's that desire to find something different, that curiosity factor. I think, is there more? What's around this corner? Is there a waterfall down this little creek that you wouldn't even think, that there would be a waterfall in? Is there a cliff? You never know what's out there until you go. Like, I have this like little saying, I forget what it is now. I say it a lot. It just comes to me, but I think it's like, you won't know until you go, like you won't know what's over there beyond that cliff line or down that hill until you go there, until you explore that, and I think a lot of people are like afraid, if you don't know an area. I see that, you can become intimidated by an area. And the UP is a huge place. A lot of people don't realize how big the Upper Peninsula is. They see images from pictured rocks, and they might see something from Mackinac Island and maybe Black River Harbor, the waterfalls there or something. And they're trying to plan their trip, and they're like, well, can I get here? Can I get here? Can I get here? I got like 4 days. And it's like, no, you really don't understand how big the Upper Peninsula, Michigan is. There's so many places to find and explore, and just to go out and just enjoy nature and whatnot. I think, it can be a little intimidating to people, and I think, not everybody has an off-road vehicle or 4x4, or, has the ability, maybe people don't have good hiking shoes or the proper, survival skills, or if they get lost or whatever, it can be real intimidating out there. And a lot too is, do you know where you're going as well? Is it private land? Is it not private land? Because a lot of people come from the big cities. They come from neighborhoods that are all developed. And here in the Upper Peninsula, we have a lot of forest land that's with these logging companies that they have dirt tracks down them. They go log the forest. So, a lot of people don't know that you can go down some of them. Or is there private property across the road where that waterfall sits? You have to kind of know the area as well. So, but one of my goals is to just help people, become aware of what's out there, and if you can go there or not. And I think there's just so many places I haven't seen, and I love finding new stuff. I think it's kind of that everybody likes to have something that somebody else doesn't know about, right? Like we always like you want to keep it a secret because I'm the one that knows about it. But I think as far as a long-term thing, I'm looking at, trying to share some of this as well so others can go and enjoy it too, because it's not mine. I don't own it. I mean, I might have found it myself or whatnot and whatnot. I think it's nice to share things with people, and I just love finding new stuff. It's that inquisitive factor.
Like you said, what's around the next bend? What's over the next hill? And I agree entirely. When I first went up to the Upper Peninsula years ago now, I thought, well, it's not very big, so I'll be fine. I'm going to get up there. I'm going to go exploring. And I quickly realized I was well out of my element. There's limited cell service. You're not going to have data on your phone. And I realized just how big it was because, on Google, you could pull up your major points. So I was like, well, I'm going to go from Presque Isle River in the Porkies over to Canyon Falls. And when I punched it in, it was like an hour and 55 minutes. And I was like, all right, well, that's a bit longer of a drive than I anticipated. Yeah. And then you realize when you get to Canyon Falls, I'm just about halfway through the Upper Peninsula. Not quite, but I'm close. And then you kind of start putting the pieces together. And, over the last however many 5-6 years of going up there all the time and is doing the same thing, you go to an area, you get accustomed to it, and you start feeling that confidence, like, okay, yeah, I know my way around enough to where, I can be dangerous. I can go off trail and go looking for things or exploring. Of course, like you mentioned, being respectful and aware of private property and not wandering onto privately owned land or disturbing, somebody else. But as you explore more, and it was very humbling for me because as I explored more, I realized just how little I actually knew about the Upper Peninsula and all the different places. Like you said, there's creeks, there's rivers, there's forests, there's cliffs, just all over the place that you'll never find if you don't just get out there and seek them out. But of course, doing it within your ability.
Yeah, exactly. I think, yeah, having that knowledge is key, and having a little, preparation when you go out somewhere. As somebody who ventures into the woods, I think, a lot of people go, you see it everywhere you go, no matter if you're going out west or in Alaska or, anywhere across the world. The people who haven't grown up in those areas or don't have much experience in the outdoors, might think, okay, there's a trail, there's a logging road. Let me go explore it. And they're down there with their, their tennis shoes, and they don't got a water bottle. They don't got any survival pack or anything. They don't got a way to start a fire. They don't got Band-Aids. So you go and explore a place, and what happens when you twist your ankle? How are you going to get somebody out of a ravine? How now, like, you don't have cell phone signal. It helps to be prepared. And I think if you do explore the UP and out west or wherever you go, if you do explore the nature, you learn to kind of become prepared, because at some point in your life, that's going to happen to you where you don't bring your raincoat and it's just pouring rain and you don't have a way to protect your camera, and now it's getting all wet, and those images you took, spending all day doing that, and you're soaking your camera. So I think being prepared is, a big part of exploring as well. And I think a lot of people don't take that into factor, even if you're just going down a trail because you saw it in a brochure somewhere. I think it's wise to have the minimal, things like a water bottle and first aid kit and a way to help somebody else out or help yourself out. The UP is a big place, like you said, going from Black River to Canyon Falls, it's a long ways, and sure, yeah, you can do it. But what happens when you get to Canyon Falls and you've never seen Canyon Falls before? Now you get there and you saw the one picture from there that somebody took or the video, but they didn't show you from downriver where there's the cool canyon down there and people are cliff jumping off the rocks there in the spring when the things warm up a bit, and there's more waterfalls down below, so, there's just so many things around each corner, to see and do.
Yeah, that's when I was up there just a few weeks back. I decided to go and hike Canyon Falls, and it was completely frozen over. I had anticipated it to be frozen over. I mean, it's the middle of January, so you can't expect there to be flow. I mean, maybe, but I was just going there for a hike, really, and I got up to it and just completely frozen over, frozen solid, side to side. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna hike down the rest of the way and check out, like you said, the cliffs back there, the different geology, and it was cool. It was a fun hike, but knowing that those things are back there, it's going to enhance that experience, whether you're there in the winter or the spring, the summer, the fall, whatever the case might be. And then knowing what's in the direct vicinity is awesome, because instead of doing like what I did on one of my first adventures up there, driving from one side to the center, you can hit all kinds of different falls in an area. If there's one thing I've learned about the Upper Peninsula, where there's one waterfall, if you draw a 10-mile radius around it, there's probably 20, 30 more waterfalls in that same area. You just got to seek them out.
Yeah, for sure. And that's part of, the knowledge is gaining the knowledge over time, and seeking people out who know and whatnot. And some of it, the fun is just exploring for yourself too. Like you said, just getting out and going, you have a little time on your hands and just go down the river a little bit further and see what's down there, and I think that's part of the joy of it as well. Just, not everything has to come from a brochure so much that you can't include in a brochure. It's part of your just going down the trail a little bit further, because you just never know what you're going to see unless you're going, and unless you look. A lot of times people are just, they have the plan. I'm going to do this, and this, and this. The wife planned the trip. The husband sits back and she's like, we're going to hit this up, and this up, and this up. And it's like, we got to go there, kids. We got to go here because we got this, and we got this, and we got this. And it's like, I don't like to do things like that. I like to make a plan somewhat, but I think you limit yourself by having, like, you have to do this, and this, and this, and you don't leave yourself any time for any explorations or just sitting back and enjoying it. I think is part of it, just to sit at Canyon Falls for a little bit. You're going to see everybody come and go. Like, you'll see 20, 30 people during the summer. They'll snap their pictures and they'll go to another spot. But it becomes more memorable when you can hang out and you can enjoy and listen to it and look at that rock over there, and you can look at this over here, and you can see the different things that are in the area that you're visiting. I think to just spend a little bit of time and relax and take in the fresh air and not be stressed out of thinking about you have to go here to here to here, I think is part of the beauty of it. I think if you're going to come to a place like this, I think you got to take a little more time and sit back and enjoy it a little bit for each spot. Of course, if you have a reservation at a restaurant, you want to get there, but if you're going to a tour, you want to get there. If you're going to explore Canyon Falls, leave yourself a little time. If you're going, Copper Peak and Black River Harbor, leave yourself a little extra time for that, just to enjoy that nature, because you're going to go back to the office or whatever in the big city, and you're going to be dealing with traffic lights, and you're like, I wish I was back in the UP. I wish I was there sitting at that waterfall for an extra 10 minutes. That's stress relief,
Yep.
But I think that's an important thing too, is just the just being able to just relax a little bit. I think if you're going to come to a place of nature like this, or out west or wherever, I think part of it is just kind of just relaxing a bit and enjoying it and taking it all in, because it's going to be more memorable for you. If you're go there to snap your picture and post it on social media, that's your goal, then why even go and visit a beautiful place, of nature? That's not very fun to me. I like to enjoy it and see what I can see,
Yeah,
a lot more fun.
I agree. That's something that I don't think a lot of people actually talk about is, when you're out in nature, it's always kind of sunk in on my last day when I'm on a trip. I'll be standing at a waterfall or at an overlook for sunrise or what have you. And it just kind of sinks in that, hey, tomorrow, this time, I'm going to be on the highway dealing with traffic on my way back home. Now, thankfully, I live fairly far outside of the city. So I'm still in a moderately rural area. So it's not terrible. But as you get back into civilization and you walk away from nature, you're right. You want 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, just sitting in front of that waterfall, just relaxing. All of life's little problems don't seem so important anymore. And you can just take that moment in. And especially in photography, you know, if you just walk up, oh, there it is, click, snap, lens cap, throw it in the bag, move on. I mean, yeah, you'll have a picture of it, but is the picture really going to have that much meaning other than a snapshot memory? Or if you take your time and you sit down and, like you said, you watch the light move, you watch how the different elements of that landscape change, you're going to be able to put together something way better than if you just give it 5 seconds and move on.
Yeah, for photography, it's important to capture many angles, and why not? Like I said, storage is cheap. It's you can delete things and stuff. I think, a lot of it's trial and error at a spot. You get down at an angle and you take a waterfall picture here, and you take one from over here, and with the lights coming in, now the fog's moving in, and but if you're just there and you snap a picture, then and you're gone, you didn't see that all of a sudden the light's changing and that was your good photo. You missed it because you weren't patient and you weren't willing to sit there and enjoy it. I think a lot of photography and good shots come from when you're not really expecting it. When you get there and you're like, "Ooh, this angle is looking pretty good," and then you get back to your computer and you pull it up and you're like, "Well, that wasn't that good." But the other one that you took an angle of that you didn't really think was going to be good, that's your good image. But if you didn't take more images, you wouldn't have that opportunity. You might have thought that one good one was your image, but it doesn't look very good when you blow it up, and that was your only image you took. Pretty depressing.
Yeah. And one of the things that always got me when I first started in photography, the sun would go down and I'd be like, all right, well, that's it. Show's over. And I'll never forget there was multiple times where you get everything all packed up, you start hiking back and you look over your shoulder one last time to take a look out at whatever you were shooting. And then all of a sudden, perfect light, perfect conditions.
Oh, yeah.
And you're sitting there like, if I would have just been patient 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes, I would have had that shot. My composition would have looked so much better. And it's those learning moments, those teachings as you're out there doing this kind of stuff that, yeah, you just go out there, don't put plans on things, don't put expectations on things, just hang out, see what happens, because chances are something cool is going to happen. It might not be epic, extravagant, spectacular, earth-shattering, amazing, but something cool will happen. You just have to be present and just kind of, for lack of a better term, wait it out.
Yeah, that's a good one. Just wait it out. With sunset or photography, if you're out there for sunset, a lot of people are like, when the sun's gone down, then I'm done. But some of the best light is after the sun's gone down, 20 minutes later at times in the summer. Like it goes down pretty quick in the wintertime here, but some of your best light is after the sun's gone down. And if there's good light, sometimes you can have a half hour of great photos, opportunities versus if it's right after sunset. Your light's a little bit more harsh a lot of times, unless you got cloud or it's a dreary kind of day. The types of clouds are the ones that you need for a good sunset. Making the skies pastel and pink and orange, and some days are different. And sometimes you go out there expecting something, and sometimes you come back with nothing. And then sometimes you're not expecting something, and then sometimes you're like, wow, that was magic. But if I wasn't here, I wouldn't have seen that. But I just went out to have fun for the day, and wow, I was rewarded with a great image. Or just that memory, that memory that not a lot of people had, because it was raining a little bit and it was drizzly and it was cold, and it was a windy day, but you were out there, you captured it because you were willing to put in the work. You were willing to get out there in those harsh elements, or that day that was a little cold and drizzly. You got the good image, you know?
And it's the same thing with the exploring piece and getting out there. You know, the more you push yourself outside of your comfort level, not into a state of this is dangerous or I'm going beyond what my experience level allows for, but you know, it's really that piece that kind of ties it all together where, you know, when you going back to exploring, where, you know, you mentioned you just want to get out there and explore and see these things. And it's that process of you want to be present, you want to discover, but you also want to experience all of these different discoveries and so on and so forth as you're there. So, you know, when you are heading out the door and you're like, you know what, there's a creek or a forest or someplace that piqued your interest and you want to get out there and you want to explore it and see what it holds. What does your approach to that look like as far as where you're going to go, what you're going to attempt to take pictures of while you're there? Are you formulating a plan at all for that so you can get that good light in a specific area you think might work? Or are you just kind of getting out there and seeing what happens?
This day and age, I think it's more of just going out and just seizing the day and going out there and seeing what I can get. A lot of it's just going and exploring, and you know, not often anymore that I go out and I'm like, I have to go and get this great picture. But there are times where you're like, I want to hit this waterfall up with this good light because I don't really have a good image of that, at this time of the year or whatever. So I think there are times when you go out and you have more of a plan, because you want to get that image with that snow melt, and because you don't know if you're going to be able to get back there, in another couple weeks, and the snow melt could be done for, and it's not going to look the same, and the light's not going to be good, and and something might come up. But there are times when you want to make plans, of course, trying to get a certain image or whatnot there. But a lot of times it's just going out and saying, hey, I'm going to go over to the Huron Mountains today, and I'm going to climb up this mountain over here, and then I'm going to hit this waterfall and this waterfall. And sometimes I only get to two of them if I had three of them. Sometimes I get to all of them, but I think it's that slow down process because you never know what's going to happen. I think, a lot of times I plan something, I'm real ambitious, but what's around me is dictating kind of how the flow is for the day, and I always know that, one thing beautiful is I live up here. So it's a little bit easier for me to get back there and, even to the next day, but, you don't always accomplish your goals or the things that you wanted to do for that day. But I think it, like we've been talking about, I think the major thing is just to enjoy it. And, if it works out that you got to all that stuff, great. But I mean, if you have a mission where you're like, if you're working on a certain project or whatever, then maybe my mission's a little bit different, where I want to, document all these falls and I have to get to 10 of them, I'll be a little bit more ambitious and go get them, versus like if I'm just out, just having fun for the day and going exploring, I think it changes,
As far as safety, you had mentioned safety a little bit ago. People that are interested in doing this sort of thing outside of the essentials, water bottle, first aid kit, basic understanding of land navigation, all that kind of stuff. What other items do you typically bring with you on these hikes, or do you recommend people who might be wanting to go off and start getting a little bit more off the beaten path? What kind of things do you typically recommend that people bring with, or things that you use that you trust and rely on out there?
I think if you're going to go and explore things that are more off the beaten path, and not even necessarily off the beaten path, but it could be a waterfall in a brochure that's a trail, it's a mile and a half trail to it, anything can happen to you. And if you're out there exploring that when everybody's gone home, and they're done with it and it's getting low light on it. And like I said, if you sprain your ankle or something happens to you and you need to take care of that, so there's, and the knowledge of how do you do that, or where, how, you didn't have a flashlight on, you didn't have a headlamp. Well, now you got to try to get back without that stuff. You're using your cell phone. Now your cell phone battery, you didn't charge it on the way in there, so it's a dead battery. So now you don't have any light at all. So I think having the basics, I always like when I do survival stuff, I do little survival classes here and there with people, or camping trips. I talk about, survival items, but I think one of the most underrated items to bring on with you, no matter if you're just going on a trail that's really popular with somebody or not, is a whistle. Whistle's like one of the top things you can bring, because if something happens to you, trip or fall, maybe your friend with you ventured off over this way and you said, I'll meet back over here off the trail in 10 minutes or whatever. Now you're down this trail that you don't know anywhere where it goes, or now you went off on this other spot into the woods. Well, you're going to be yelling and screaming, and what if the wind's blowing? You're not going to, your voice can only carry so far, and you're going to lose your voice eventually, right? And having a whistle allows you to penetrate through the noise of the wilderness, and is going to be, you can have your own little code, how many blows, or whatnot for your whistle communications or whatever. But a whistle's super cheap, super light, and you can buy 10 of them and put one on your backpack, put one on your strap of your camera, leave one in your car, wherever, give one to somebody else on the trail, whatever. But a whistle is like one of my top survival items. A knife is another survival item. Way to start a fire. Usually I carry like at least 2 ways to start a fire: a lighter and a fire ferro rod with a scraper. Don't really carry matches a whole lot anymore, because there's so many opportunities to start a fire with birch bark, and I know all kinds of different ways to start a fire, but having a knife and fire starting methods is as well. A water bottle is always important. Full water bottle when you go in. Maybe if you're going to be doing a longer hike or something, maybe a water filter, because there's a lot of opportunities to get water, and if it's a warm day, you're going to probably be sipping through a lot of water. But at least a water bottle. And then first aid kit, just a simple first aid kit with some bandages on if you get a scrape or a cut or something, is always a good thing to have. Or maybe not even you, maybe somebody in your group, gets a scrape or a cut, because, you're in the woods, things can get dirty and whatnot. What else could you bring? A bandana is a good item to have. Comes in for many uses. You cover your face or your head, or, you can dip it into the river and put it around your neck or over your head and stay cool. And have that evaporating cooling process to keep you a little bit cooler. So those are kind of some simple things. And of course, a little backpack or a fanny pack or something to carry some of the gear in is always helpful. So maybe some rope as well. Maybe a little 50-foot, mount of paracord is good. I recommend paracord because it can use the inner strands of it as well. So there's some things that you can take with you, just simple stuff that doesn't take a lot of weight, just right there. But there's so much more. But that's generally what I have. Oh, and also, you can't forget this one, is a headlamp or a flashlight. Typically a headlamp so you can have your hands free, but I usually have a flashlight and a headlamp as well, or a cap light I put on sometimes, and some extra set of batteries for either as well. There's some good things to have. Definitely a flashlight, because if you're going in before dark and and it's 2 hours before dark and you're really enjoying taking pictures and doing some video and sitting back and relaxing like you should, and sometimes you're not able to get back in the daylight, so you might need to be using your headlamp to get back. So
That's happened to me a few times where I'll be deep into the Porcupine Mountains or somewhere in the central Upper Peninsula, and really anywhere where you're just so focused on the photography and taking it all in and enjoying the experience and just living it up in that moment, that eventually it gets dark enough to where you're like, hey, wait a minute, I gotta hike back out. And having a headlamp, having a flashlight, I usually do a headlamp and a handheld flashlight just so that I can kind of throw light farther farther distances than what my headlamp can, just so I can see what's way out there if I'm way off the trail, or maybe there isn't a trail and I'm looking for things that I kind of mentally noted on my way in or something. You can see it at a distance. And I've even taken strands of reflective paracord, and I'll bring, 10 of them with me, a couple feet long, and I'll tie them around the trees when I'm getting off trail. And then that way I know, hey, I'm going to be hiking back in the dark. All I have to do is follow my reflective strands of paracord every 50, 100 feet, whatever. And, obviously as you get up to them, you untie them, take them off, throw them back in your bag. But it just helps you with those little temporary markers of, hey, yeah, this is the way I came. All I have to do is follow this back and it's going to take me right back out.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes even in the daytime, if I do a lot of bushwhacking and stuff, exploring and finding new places and stuff. And that's very important to kind of understand where you came from, because that's going to be the most easiest way for you to get back to where you were, should you not have Google Maps or have a GPS with you or whatnot, and it's getting dark or whatever, even if it's not getting dark. Well, sometimes things look the same, and you're going back through a place and like, oh yeah, I swear I came through here, and it's hard for you to imprint on the ground and find your footpaths or whatnot. And that river that you're crossing looks like the same spot of river that you crossed before. Now, all of a sudden you're 270 degrees different than what you were. You could be 4 or 5 miles off on that, and you're not going to get back to your car in time, and good luck, because you're coming up to a big ravine and that ain't the way you came in. So knowing where you were, and like you said, seeing what you can identify as far as like a down tree or a big log or a big rock or this little creek or this pond that was here. The way the river snaked around is important too. Like what kind of trees are around there, just landmarks, different things that you can notice on the way in that are going to really help you get back to where your vehicle is, because vehicle is safety.
Right.
How many times have you explored, and you've done it if you're outdoorsy, a photographer, and you get out the indoors and you like it. But when you get back to your vehicle, how joyful are you when you get back to your vehicle? You see the reflection from your flashlight and you're like, yes, safe. I'm safe.
Yeah, I made it.
I made it. I'm good. Now I hope the car starts, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now you just got to make sure you didn't drop your keys somewhere along the trail and you're good to go.
Yeah. But that safety factor. So it's like you want to get out of there,
Right.
And being back to your car is just a relief,
Yeah, that's monumental. And that's something that I think as much as we enjoy the hike, it's always a relief when you come around that last bend or you come over the hill or what have you, and you see your car in the distance and you're like, okay, yep, it's going to be okay. I made it. This is good. I'm going back to camp. I'm going home, whatever the case might be. And it's just that kind of final piece of the experience, if you will, of you can celebrate now. You can be excited and look at the next step. Because like for me, when I'm out there and I'm getting off trail, off the beaten path, I'm not necessarily thinking about, oh, I can't wait to get home to edit these images, or I can't wait to do XYZ. Once the camera's back in the bag, it's like a switch flips and it's okay. Creative brain, chill out for a minute. We got to go back into survival mode and find our way back out, because like you said, I've had experiences out there. Just this past fall, I was wandering around. I don't even know where I was. I was somewhere by Duppy Falls, and I decided I was going to follow the river down and just explore a little further than normal. And I had crossed over the river at one point, and I kept going. It was pretty open in there. Nothing troublesome. Wasn't extremely technical or anything, but I kind of hit a point where I was like, I don't really feel like there's much else to see. I'm going to go back. And the same thing happened where I started going back and I was like, wait a minute. is this where I crossed or is that where I crossed? Where did I come in at? And I got all turned around, but I carry a Garmin GPS with me. So I just took it out of my bag and I looked and I was like, okay, well, the trail is here. I'm a mile off the trail. So just follow the creek, walk back down. You'll find the trail. You'll pick it up. You'll be on your way. But, I think one of the big things is, like you said, to a degree, there has to be an element of planning. You have to be able to keep that mindset of, just don't freak yourself out. Don't panic about things. Just focus on what the next step is and you'll be fine. But there has to be somewhat of a plan in there to make it be fine.
That's one thing about like going with the guide, like guiding people. It's the people can relax. They don't have to worry about anything. I'd have to be the one that worries about it, so that's one thing going with somebody like myself who knows the area and stuff. I know how long it takes to get out of places. I know the terrain. I have the survival stuff with me. I've been there, done that kind of thing. So it's I think important too. If you're able to have somebody that knows the area, I think it's good to have that person with you, for sure. Any insight you can gather, before your adventures in the UP is a good thing.
And that's something that I wanted to jump in here with as well for those of you listening and for those that may not know. Steve actually does Upper Peninsula tours where he'll take you out and show you some of these waterfalls, some of these awesome places that he's found and adventured to over the years. How can people get involved with that? And what are some of the details about the different tours that you offer?
Well, I've been doing the tours for quite a while, and basically it's kind of a go with the flow type adventures because I know so many places. Usually I always get a few people a year is like, I've been there, done that. I've seen everything you can see. I'm like, no, you haven't. but but there's so many spots to go, and I think having a guide is super beneficial because one is your time management, is you can see a lot more stuff in a short period of time with somebody who knows, because you can just sit back and relax. You don't have to have that itinerary that you made. You can see some places that are going to be, it's kind of like your own little private tour, and people can go to upperpeninsula.tours.com. They can reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and they can contact me there as well with the Upper Peninsula Tours. I mean, even go to my other socials and stuff too. I'm always connected with all that. So if you saw me somewhere else or on a website or a tourist agency or whatever like that, you can always reach me anywhere, But so people, they basically contact me and say, hey, I'm interested in this adventure, maybe the Keweenaw appetizer tour or a tour in Marquette, or I want to do all waterfall day. There's something for everybody. And even if it's just your first time in the Upper Peninsula, you don't have to be intimidated. You just say, hey, I just want to have fun, and I'll bring you to places and stuff. And I'm going to, no tour is actually the same with anybody. I might have the Keweenaw appetizer tour, but that's on there just basically to kind of give people an idea of what there is to do. And sometimes I hit the certain waterfalls on there with everybody. Sometimes we don't even make it to any of those waterfalls because we're doing something else. But as I start the tour, I'll usually kind of get to know people a little bit, and I'll be able to see physically what they're able to do. They'll tell me, and they'll tell me too when they're contacting me, say, hey, I'm not super athletic. Me and my husband used to hike, 40 years ago, and we do a little bit here and there, but we don't do anything too crazy. We used to climb mountains, but we don't do that no more. What is there for me? Or is this something I'm able to do? And I just tell people, hey, there's an adventure to be had. I can bring you, and we'll go to what your abilities are, and a lot of times it's just a matter of meeting those people and doing a few things to kind of figure out what they're able to handle, because I have, like I said, endless places I can go across the whole UP, in certain areas, so there's something for everybody.
Yeah. Now, do you do mainly just waterfalls, or you do a mix of like waterfalls, overlooks, like bushwhacking, like kind of all the different geographical or geological features of the Upper Peninsula?
Yeah, I do. So I have some some tours that are like a lot of the tours are staged as we try to get in some waterfalls, maybe some overlooks, some scenic views, like a little mixture of stuff that people can enjoy. But sometimes, and I do have tours where maybe people want more rock picking. This last year, I had a lot more people that want to do rock picking and Yooper rock hunting as well. So like I'll build in a tour where it's more rock picking and maybe a couple waterfalls, and then maybe we'll do some copper picking too, because I have places I go to where I can help people find a little piece of copper that they can take home with them. Little keepsake of the UP, something that the UP is known for is the native copper. And there's a lot of mines up in the Keweenaw and copper country area that we can go to too. And I know all those places where you can and you can't go as well. And I have the tools and things to help people out, so they don't even need to have any experience doing any of that stuff. But if people like that kind of stuff, they can just tell me when they're on the tour, or I can find out beforehand or whatever. But so like stuff we can do is like rock picking, for agates and beach stones, and copper picking and Yooper rocks at night, the glowing Yooper rocks, the flashlight. I have all the stuff you need for that. That's a separate tour, the Yooper rock tour. We do overlook views, cool places, generally that people don't go to, those little hidden gems. We also go to a lot of waterfalls that are built into it, and maybe some old mine sites or whatnot. So there's a different mixture of things that are built into the adventures. And, if I'm in Marquette, I'm not doing mine tours, obviously, because we can't get into the Eagle Mine. But the Copper Country, Keweenaw has a lot of like old mine sites and, the history of the coppers there. But if I'm over in Ontonagon, the Porkies area, we do like Porcupine Mountain stuff, and the Ontonagon region, I do stuff. So it varies depending on where I'm at, but there's something for everybody.
I really like the variety that you've included and built into that with so many different things. I didn't even think about rock hunting and Yooper lights. Every time I'm up there, especially in the summer, I usually stay over toward the Porcupine Mountains in the Union Bay campground. And every night, if I'm going out to do a little stargazing, or I just want to get out for a drive, or whatever the case may be, there's always people along the shoreline there with those lights, and they're out there looking for Yooper lights, and it's cool. I love seeing the images people make with them, and just seeing them in person. When you finally find your first one, it's just like, wow, this is really cool. It's just different, but really interesting that kind of stuff is just there. You can go out there, you can find it, and it adds to the adventure. As far as all the different adventures that you've gone on, all the different places you've explored, all the different tours that you offer, if you had to pick, say, your top 3 favorite things to do or favorite places to explore in the Upper Peninsula, what would you say those top 3 would be?
Well, my top places in the UP to like explore are the Keweenaw, no particular order. We don't like play favorites or run at one spot to the next, but we'll say the Keweenaw is beautiful. It's a very unique piece of land, and there's a lot of stuff in a short little area. The history is there. I always like the Huron Mountains too. And that's, an area that people don't really get to. They don't really think about it as the Upper Peninsula, because they might think of like the Huron Mountain Club or whatever. But there's so many places in there, and it's wild too. It's bigger than the Keweenaw. There's a lot more places to go. It can get pretty rough. There's a lot of waterfalls and a lot of like cliffs and mountains, and like Mount Arvon and the Rock Cut and Bald Mountain, Ghost Peak and stuff that are accessible for people. But you do need a vehicle or the knowledge how to get to the places. And there's so many waterfalls in there. And then I also love the Porkies. I just love it. I just love hiking the Porkies and exploring the Porkies. There's so many trails that are developed. There's a lot of camping opportunities in there. Winter, spring, summer, fall. I just got back from a winter camping trip there last week. Actually, 1 week from tonight, I was actually camping in there. Winter camping, and that's fun as well, but it's a little bit different. But The Porcupine Mountains is our largest state park in the UP, or in the whole state. It's the largest state park, and it's wild as well. It's not something you really take lightly unless you're just hitting the hot spots like the Lake of the Clouds or Summit Peak, or you're going to go on Presque Isle and view the waterfalls there. But once you start getting into the interior, now you're in a different ballgame. Now that you're like hiking, and now you're in a different area where you just can't get out fast. But that's where a lot of the fun is. That's areas that people don't get to as often. 90% of people, 95% of people are going to do Lake of the Clouds. Because that's what gets the promotions. That's what people see. They see the big cliff vistas there, and they see the nice, beautiful lake there, and they see the sunset pictures, the Northern Lights photos, or whatever with the Lake of the Clouds there, and that gets them there. But hopefully they want to explore more. Hopefully they're not the type of people that are just like, oh, I got to get my picture and I'm gone. There's, heck, you could have went down, the South Boundary Road there a little bit past the headquarters, mile up, and you could have hit 14 waterfalls, that are right there on an easy trail to go on. So there, as you know, there's a lot of places over in the Porkies too. Camping, backpack. You can plan a whole trip like you do. Plan your trip and take a week and explore.
Yeah, there's so much to do in the Porkies, and I've focused on the Porkies for the last 5-6 years of going up there, and I've hiked so much there, just hundreds of miles, and I still feel like I haven't seen it all. I've been on every trail system. I've been all over the place, and I still feel like I've barely made a dent in what's actually out there. And despite that, I have actually this year, I've kind of changed gears a little bit, and I'm going to be exploring in the Hurons a little bit more myself, and seeing and exploring and just finding the hidden gems that are out there, and taking it all in. And I actually wanted to say before we close it out, I saw that you had been on that winter hiking trip in the Porkies. Man, that looked extreme. That was awesome. What led you to do that? You just decided you wanted to do something different?
Yeah, well, it's been many years since I've done any winter camping, and I have a friend in our hiking group. He's a little bit younger. He's a little bit more ambitious, kind of that kind of stuff. But I wanted to do more hiking trips, so he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go up skiing and hiking and stuff like that in the Porkies in the winter." I was like, "Yeah, I need to start doing more of that because it's adventurous and it makes good content and it's fun and challenging and rewarding and stuff. It's cold too."
Yeah.
but you have to know what you're doing. You just can't go winter camping and not be prepared for sure. But yeah, that was a fun experience. And and it wasn't supposed to be a blizzard when we left. It was supposed to snow and stuff and be cold, but later on that night they had issued a blizzard warning, for later that night or the next day, and it got pretty windy and stuff. But it wasn't until I was headed back to Houghton that it got kind of nasty along the lakeshore and all the way back to Houghton. But being up on the mountain there on the West Vista, it wasn't too bad. But I built a snow shelter with a tarp. I had a tent with me, which I initially was thinking about using, but I was like, maybe I'll make a snow shelter. I think that'd be kind of fun. And I didn't do the best job, but it kept me warm and had the proper stuff, and it was like 32 degrees. It was anywhere from 27 when it got a little cooler at night to 32 degrees when I first went to bed around midnight there. So, but yeah, it's an experience in itself. But
yeah, it looked like it would have been. That looked fun though.
Yeah, I hope to do more winter camping. I hopefully do more summer camping as well. And I also bring people too. I bring people camping, and I have gear that people can rent as well. I get a lot of people that are going to iRoyal that rent gear like backpacks or stoves or sleeping bags and sleeping pads and filters and cookware and all the stuff somebody would need to enjoy in a camping outing as well. I've got camping and backpacking stuff too to rent out and stuff as well. So
it's really cool. I didn't know you did that. That's awesome, man. That you kind of offer a little bit of everything up there.
Yeah, and I do kayak rentals and paddleboard rentals too. So I don't really do trips, so much, but I'll drop people off. I'll do shuttles with people if people are like canoeing or kayaking, and they just want somebody to drop them off on a river. You know, there's not a lot of rivers that you can really paddle this far over because it's like the terrain is so much different than over by like Munising, the Autrain and Manistee and stuff is a little bit more flatter out that way. But there are a few rivers around here in the Copper Country area that you can paddle. So, you know, I do the rentals for people on a lake, or, you know, if they want to go down the Sturgeon or whatever, you know, I can rent those, you know, canoe, kayaks, paddle boards, or if they have their own, I can drop them off, you know, wherever they want to.
Giving back and being a source of a little bit of everything for everyone, man. That's really cool. As far as what comes next in this year and beyond, I know you said that you weren't really doing too many tours and all that right now in the winter, but when does everything start up in spring for you? How can people get involved and start signing up for this stuff and getting their spring, summer plans set up?
Well, you can always reach out at Yooper Steve, and then my tours page is Upper Peninsula Tours, and that's on Facebook. It's easy on Facebook, or you can go to the website upperpeninsulatours.com, and then somebody can text me as well. They can text me, and my text number is on there, and we can communicate that way, or Facebook chat, or you know, Instagram. A lot of people sometimes reach out on Instagram. I'm on there, Upper Peninsula Tours, or just Yooper Steve. You know, people see me on there as well, on the social medias. But there's all they have to do is just reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in a tour. What could I do? I'm going to be over here, Marquette or the Keweenaw, or wherever they're going to be. I've got some type of adventure. Like I said, I don't do so much beyond Munising to the east. I will, but for the time factor wise, everything's kind of really spread out that way. Once you leave Munising, things are just too far away. I like to get in more stuff quicker than have driving around with somebody for 2 hours to get to a spot, to go to another spot for, you know, they see two things a lot of that. There's more adventure from Munising, Marquette, and the Huron Mountains to the Keweenaw, to Iron Mountain, Ironwood and the Porkies. There's just so much more. There's way, I could spend a lifetime showing people stuff. So that's where your real adventure is. Not that there's not adventure in the other places like Newberry, or, you know, Manistee or Escanaba or Iron River or whatever. But most of the stuff is in the Western UP or Central UP, you know, from Munising onward to the west. Basically from Munising onward to the west is where there's a lot of adventure, lifetime adventure.
I can definitely confirm that there's a lot out there, and there's much more for many of us to find. Very exciting stuff. Really happy that you could jump on an episode here and share some of your adventures and some of your background and what you do up there. And I know we talked a little bit about the episode, but I will definitely have to have you back here again in the future when fall colors are right around the corner, so we can learn about some of your adventures up there and getting people planned and prepared for their fall color adventures. But I definitely want to say thank you very much for jumping on and sharing your insight, your experience, and some of your stories. It's been great.
Yeah, so much appreciate you having me on. I look forward to seeing what you're doing here in the future with what this podcast will become. And so much of a pleasure to be on here with you, and glad to share what I know and share those experiences, and hopefully it helps somebody else out and helps you out as well. So it's a win-win in my books.
Yeah. Yep. Just helping other people and getting people's experience and expertise out there is what it's all about. And for everyone that's interested, like I said, everything will be included in the show notes below. So go check out Steve's work, some of his tours, all the exciting things that he offers, and go say hi.
Yeah, we'll see you. Well, thanks a lot, Nick, and we'll see you again.
Sounds good. Thank you all for enjoying this episode of the Lakescape Photography Podcast, and another huge thank you to Yooper Steve for joining us. His work is linked in the show notes below. Make sure you guys go check out his work, get involved in some of his outdoor adventures. The Upper Peninsula is an incredible place, and even though it might not feel like it right now, spring is right around the corner. Next week, we are going to be joined by Brian Hansel, our first guest from the beautiful state of Minnesota. We are going to be discussing visual storytelling in your images and the many ways that we can create powerful scenes. Please don't forget to rate and subscribe, share with your friends and fellow photographers. As always, it is greatly appreciated. I will see you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody.